Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining again. So we are discussing the Song of Songs, as you know, we're sort of toward the end of chapter 1. We'll just give a sort of a minute review of what we did up until this point, and then we'll delve into the verses where we are actually up to. So the Song of Songs is a part of the Bible, of course, which is really a series of either a series or one long one, depending on who you ask, but it's a series of love stories and love songs between a man and a woman. Why does it make its way into the Bible? Because initially there was a debate whether or not it should be included in the Bible, because what is this song doing in the Bible, which is a religious book? But ultimately, the Jewish sages include it into the Bible because they understand that it's really an allegory. It's an allegory to explain the relationship between God and the Jewish people. And as we have been saying, that you can really read this book on 3 different levels, and we try to read it on all 3 levels simultaneously. So there's the level of a simple story between a man and a woman, and we want to understand the dynamic of that song and that relationship and how it develops and the obstacles that the relationship encounters, because that's helpful even to the understanding the love between any relationship of man and woman. But then the sages also say this is also a metaphor. This is also a metaphor for the history of the Jewish people and God. And as we see that as the story unfolds, the commentators point to different historical events and say, this episode, this scene in the book describes a specific Jewish episode in Jewish history in the development of the relationship with God and the Jewish people. So that's level 2. And then you get to level 3. Level 3 is the Kabbalists that say that, man and woman, as we know in Judaism, man and woman is also a metaphor for God and the Jewish people. God is the man, is the groom, and we, the people, are the bride. And our relationship with God also has that romantic, passionate dynamic. And like all romantic relationships, it's not such a simple relationship. There are obstacles, there are ups, there are downs. So the third dimension, what the Kabbalah is interested in, is what do we learn from these verses? What do we learn about the nature of our relationship with God in the not necessarily in the historical perspective, but in our own personal relationship with God, between our soul and its beloved, its source, which is God, and the different descriptions and the details that we read about all have relevance within the spiritual life of the person in their own spiritual relationship with God. So that is by way of introduction about what we're doing here in general. And now we want to look at what is chapter 1 talking about. So chapter 1 of the book, primarily, if you want to really think about it, and you want to talk about it, things flip. But in the relationship, sometimes, at least in chapter 1, if you want to take the temperature of the couple here, you will see that the woman is much more eager than the man. And she is totally in love with him. And she says she wants to kiss. She wants to smell his fragrance. She wants to know where he is. Where are you? Tell me where you are. We got a lunch break. Where do you go for your lunch break? I want to meet you. He is not really, he's playing hard to get. He's not that excited. He wants the relationship to last, so he doesn't push her away. He praises her from time to time, but he doesn't really tell her where he is. And we discussed last week is that even when he praises her, he doesn't do so in an intimate way. He doesn't say, "You're beautiful." He says, "Well, your cheeks are beautiful with the earrings. Well, your neck is beautiful with the necklace," right? So that's a way of distancing the self. It's not so intimate. He's not talking about her. He's talking about her jewelry. What does she do? She sees right through that. And basically she signals to him that she needs an upgrade. So she says the verse that we discussed last week, she says, I'm not that beautiful. And now she's expecting, and she gets pushback. So he says, no, you are beautiful. And as we discussed last week, did we discuss this last week? No, we didn't discuss it last week. We just mentioned it, but now we're going to analyze that verse. And what happens here is he says, you are beautiful, and your eyes are dove-like, or like doves. We'll discuss what that means. But you see what he's doing. He's upgrading, and he says that you are indeed beautiful, not the jewelry. Now he's talking about her. Now, what does she do with that? So I'm going to share the screen and we'll see the verses and you'll see what she'll do. So we're not going to get to that. We're not going to fully be able to elaborate upon this today, but you will see what she does. So look at verse 15. Look how beautiful. Behold, you are comely, my beloved. Behold, you are comely. Your eyes are like doves. So he's giving her that. In Hebrew, the word is yafa. Yafa is beautiful. I have no idea what comely is. I guess it's some fancy way of saying beautiful in English. But in any case, he says, you are beautiful, my beloved. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are like doves. What does she do? Okay. Once again, you'll see the pattern where she accepts the compliment, gives him back a compliment, and then she asks for more. So what happens here is like this. Look so 15, he tells her. See, in English, it's hard to read it. It's hard to get the subtlety because the you is neutral. In Hebrew, the you could see right away if it's you singular, you masculine or you feminine. So behold, you are comely is he talking to her. He tells her, behold, you are comely, behold, my beloved, behold, you are comely, your eyes are like doves. All him talking to her. Verse 16 is she tells it right back to him. Behold, you are comely, my beloved, ye pleasant also. You pleasant. In other words, you are comely. She gives back the same compliment. No, hincha yafa, you are comely. But then what does she do? Also, our couch is leafy. The beams of our houses are cedars. Our courtiers are cypresses. What does she do? Yeah, he says, you're beautiful. She says, you're beautiful. But then she says, let's move in together. That's really what she's saying. She starts talking about the couch. Couch, I don't know who translated this. Our seinu is our bed. Our bed is leafy. They would put the bed under bushes, under branches. And then she talks about the beams of our houses are cedars. So he's willing to say, you're beautiful. But what does she say? She says, I'm beautiful, you're beautiful. By the way, don't we have a beautiful house, a beautiful bed, and a beautiful house? Of course, they don't have it yet. In the simple story, they don't have it yet. She is dreaming about the home. Now, we will see in chapter 2, he doesn't really go along. So she keeps trying to get him as excited as she is. It doesn't always work. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're up to in the simple story. Now we want to get to, like I said, we're going to look at the historical perspective and then the Kabbalistic perspective. So the goal for today is to address verse 15. If we have time, we'll do a little bit of 16, 17. If not, we do it next Friday. And with that, we finish the first chapter. But like I said, okay, but the chapters is not a real big deal because I'm going to show you, and we're going to see throughout the book, that the division of the chapters of the Bible is not from a Jewish source. So it's actually the person who divided it was actually not Jewish. So it's the decision of where to divide the chapters is basically commentary, and the Jewish tradition doesn't necessarily accept this division of chapters. The only reason why we incorporate it in the Bible is for the sake of simplicity, because that was the common. If you had to speak to people, and the Jewish people had to discuss theology and the Bible with the broader culture, so we basically incorporated their division. But as we will see, no, the story does not stop in 17. Not only the story, this unit doesn't stop in 17. It continues in the next chapter and stops a few verses into the next chapter, but that's another story. For now, we want to look at verse 15. What does he mean when he tells her, you are beautiful, my beloved? You are beautiful. He says it twice, and then he says, Einayich yonim, your eyes are like doves. What is doves? What does it mean? Your eyes are like doves. What are we talking about? Now, let's begin to spend a few minutes. Okay, any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to jump in. This is a free country. Everybody could share their ideas. I'm not trying to get a monopoly on the microphone here, so don't hesitate to ask a question or to jump in. Okay, let's give the historic perspective as is our custom, and we're going to read from Rashi as we always do, the primary biblical commentary. But before that, let's give a little background. We discussed in the past that, again, from about verse 9, we were talking about when he's praising her beautiful jewelry. According to Rashi, to Rashi, we are really referring to the episode of the splitting of the sea. When the Jewish people left Egypt, they reached the sea. At the sea splits. The Egyptians are drowned. The Jewish people get the gold and silver from the Egyptians. That is the reference for the jewelry. And what God is saying is God remembers the love. What the woman is saying, the man is praising the woman He's praising the love that God showed the people at the splitting of the sea. Verse 12, and she says, no, I'm not that beautiful. That's while the king was still at his table, my spikenard gave forth its fragrance. We discussed this at length last week. It's a negative smell. It's not, the translation here is not perfect. She's saying, you did do kindness to me. Yes, you did show kindness to me at the splitting of the sea, but how did I repay you? At Sinai, immediately after we got the 10 Commandments at Sinai, the Jewish people already betrayed God by serving an idol, by creating the golden calf. So she's saying, so we're talking in the history, we're talking about you have the splitting of the sea, then you have the sin of the golden calf. And then you have the forgiveness. The forgiveness is where she says, 13, a bundle of mirth is my beloved to me, between my breasts he shall lie, which means that now the man wants to lie with the woman. That represents the fact that after the sin of the golden calf, God wanted to dwell amongst the Jewish people in the desert, and he commanded the Jewish people to make a tabernacle, to make a home, to make a sanctuary for God in the desert, as we read in the book of Exodus. And that is the metaphor, that's the representation where the forgiveness of the sin of the golden calf comes about. Now we're going to continue on that theme. And verse 15, as we will see, talks about the beauty of the Jewish people in the episode of Sinai when they got the Torah, and also in the sin of the golden calf. And we're going to try to see what Rashi says. And like I said, another few minutes on that. If you're here for the Kabbalah, we'll wait another few minutes, and we'll get to the Kabbalistic angle. Okay, let's look. Let me click this button here, show Rashi's commentary. We'll go through the Rashi as quick as we can. Okay, behold, you are only my beloved. So the first thing Rashi is going to discuss, I'm going to give you the first thing Rashi is going to say is that one of the things Rashi is going to address is what is the double language. Behold, you are comely, behold, my beloved, behold, you are comely. You're saying it twice. It's not just for poetry. We're referring to something specific that happens twice. There's a double measure of beauty. So, behold, you are comely, my beloved. I was ashamed of my sin, but he encouraged me with appeasing words, saying, I have forgiven according to your words. So in other words, when just like in the metaphor, just like in the simple story, the woman says, I didn't smell good. And the man says, no, you're beautiful. So that's when we sinned, God told us, I forgive you. God expresses his love to us by saying, I forgive you. That is God saying to us that we are indeed beautiful. And you are most fair, your eyes are like doves. Why the eyes? So Rashi says, practically speaking, if somebody has beautiful eyes, that's the most important thing. And here's what Rashi says, i.e., a bride whose eyes are ugly, her entire body requires examination. But a bride whose eyes are beautiful, her body requires no examination. That's the Medrash. The allegorical meaning is, I forgave you for your iniquity, and behold, you are fear with your statement of let us do, and you are fear with your statement of let us hear. Fear with the deeds of your forefathers, and fear with your own deeds, because your eyes are like doves. We'll get to that in a moment. What is Rashi saying? Rashi is saying that there's a double expression here. You are comely, you are comely. You are beautiful, you are beautiful. She says it twice. Why twice? So Rashi says that when you go back to the Torah, and when God offered the Torah to the Jewish people, what did the Jewish people say? How do they express their love and their devotion to God? They said a double expression. They said, we will do and we will hear. Meaning to say, first, we're going to accept what you say. Whatever you tell us to do, we're going to do. Naaseh, we will do. And then they say, Vinishma, and we will hear. Hear means we're going to examine, we're going to study, we're going to try to internalize, but that's the second step. And that's what the sages said. That's what the Bible says. And the sage, the Medrash, makes a big deal about this, about look at the devotion. When somebody comes and offers you something, well, you question, you say, do you want to commit? Do you not want to commit? You want to read the fine print? No, because the Jewish people loved God so much, they said, we'll do whatever you want, we'll do. Later, we'll understand and we'll hear and we'll examine. So Rashi says the double expression of you are beautiful represents the double language of we will do and we will hear. And we're only emphasizing this because the Kabbalistic interpretation is going to use this double expression as well. We will do and we will hear. Okay, your eyes are like doves. There are righteous among you who clung to me like a dove, which as soon as it recognizes its mate, does not abandon it to mate with another. Now, I don't think Jill is here today, but Jill is our bird watcher. So I don't know what maybe Jill has to confirm this, but according to the sages of the Medrash, doves represent this loyalty. as soon as the dove sees its mate, it's always loyal for the rest of its life. So when it says your eyes are like doves, it represents the loyalty of the people to God. The only problem is that the Jewish people were not loyal to God. We just said we were not. We just said we sinned. We betrayed God. So Rashi therefore says the second half of the verse, the second clause, your eyes are like doves, refers to specifically to the righteous amongst the Jews, the tribe of Levi, who did not sin. Right? Similarly, in Exodus chapter 32, and all the sons of Levi gathered to him, and they did not err with the calf. They didn't serve the idol of the calf. And moreover, behold your eyes, behold you are fear with the work of the tabernacle, as it is said, and behold they made it, etc. And Moses blessed them. Behold, he praised them for that. So in other words, there's two interpretations. The first interpretation is, you are beautiful, you are beautiful. One is because the double expression is because when the Jewish people accepted the Torah, they said, we will do and we will hear. They gave that double expression of commitment to God. The second interpretation is that there's two things here. There's two praises. One praise is that for the people who did not serve the idol. And the second praise, you are beautiful, are for those who, after they served the idol and sinned, they built the tabernacle, they built the home to God, and that was sort of a sign that they regret giving the gold to the idol, and instead they give their jewelry and the gold to build a home for God, and that's the repentance. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the simple meaning of the verse and the historic interpretation. And now we move to the Kabbalistic interpretation of this verse. But if anybody has any comments or questions, please don't hesitate. Please jump in and share. Otherwise, we go straight to the Kabbalah. Here we go. Okay, first thing we have to begin with is, what is the definition of beauty according to the Kabbalah, at least the definition of beauty according to the Kabbalah in the context of the Song of Songs. So you know that in the Bible, there's no real dictionary of biblical Hebrew. And therefore, one of the ways, if you want to figure out what a word means or what a word implies or what impression or what feeling the word is trying to evoke, you have to look at other places in the Bible that use that same term, and then you could extrapolate from the other place to the place you are. So for example, if you want to know beauty, you say, okay, so where else is beauty used in the Bible? And that will give us some indication of what we mean when we say beautiful in this context. Now, the good news is that the word beautiful appears multiple places in the Song of Songs. So we're not even going to have to look to a different book. We are going to be able to look at this book itself. We're going to take a peek at chapter 6. I'm going to try to share the screen at chapter 6, and we'll see what the verse, what context the verse uses when it uses the term beautiful, and that will give us the Kabbalistic indication of what we mean when we say beauty. What does beauty mean? Because again, beauty is so subjective. It's hard to know exactly what we mean in each context. So I'm looking at chapter 6. We're skipping. Okay, let me open it up. Yeah, chapter 6. We'll read a verse. 4. Hebrew Yafeh at Rayatzi ki tirtsa. You are fair, you are beautiful, my beloved, as tirtsa. Nava, comely as Jerusalem. Okay, so the end of the verse is not important for us right now, but we say you're beautiful as you're beautiful as a city called Tirtza. Comely, another expression for beauty, as Jerusalem. That's the expression. So what the Kabbalah is going to say is, look, let's look at the first phrase. Yafa atrayati ki Tirtza. You are beautiful like Tirtza, like a city called Tirtza. Now, there are many cities and towns in Israel. Why did they choose Tirtza? That's a good question. Well, I'll give you the Kabbalistic answer. Before we get to the Kabbalistic answer, we get to the Medrash. What does the Medrash say? The Medrash says the word Tirtza. You are fair, my beloved. You are beautiful, my beloved, as Tirtza. The word Tirtza comes from the word Ratzon, will. And the Medrash uses it for something a little bit different. The Medrash says, you are beautiful when you want to be. In other words, it's not true that we're always beautiful. It's not true that our relationship with God, we're always spiritually beautiful. Sometimes we are spiritually beautiful, sometimes we're not. So the Medrash says, oh, that's what the verse means. In verse 4, in chapter 6, verse 4, you are fear my beloved as tirtza. But tirtza means when you want, when you will. Because ratzon, tirtza, the root of tirtza is will. So this word could be read, this verse could be read, you are beautiful when you want to be. That's the Medrash. Now we go to the Kabbalah. And to understand the Kabbalistic interpretation, we want to think about a term, and figure out what's the difference between these two terms within our soul. So the Kabbalah starts from within our soul. So within our soul, we know there are many different faculties. There is the emotional dimension, there's the intellectual dimension, there's the willpower. So the Kabbalah analyzes and asks the question and says, okay, so what is the difference? If you had to explain, what is the difference in your own words? What is the difference between an emotion and will? Okay, what is the difference between saying I want ice cream and I love ice cream? Now fill in the brackets. You could say ice cream, you could say coffee, you could say whatever you want. Person and experience, doesn't matter. What's the difference between I want and I love? I will and I love. Now again, I don't know, everybody, all answers are correct, because I'm not saying if I give a different answer, I'm just saying this is the Kabbalistic interpretation, but of course there could be many other interpretations. So if you had to say what's the difference between I want ice cream or I love ice cream, it sounds similar. Why? Because why do I want something? If I want something, it's because I love it. Why do I love it? I love it because I want it, right? So we want to analyze and think what's the difference between the concept of will, the willpower, and the concept of love. I really love something. I want chocolate cake or I love chocolate cake. I want to become a doctor or I love being a doctor. I want to run the marathon or I love running the marathon. I don't run the marathon, don't worry. Okay, so what's the difference? So the difference is as follows. According to the Kabbalah, the difference is as follows. When you have will is much more in your mind. When you say the term will, at least I don't know about English in the English dictionary, but when the Torah, when in Hebrew, biblical Hebrew says the will represents the mind. I want something. Why do I want it? Because my mind understands that it's the right thing. Okay. What does love mean? Love is when the abstract will of the mind trickles down to the heart. Okay. So that's the definition. We'll start with the definition. Definition is will is when it's still in the mind. I want to become a doctor. Love is when that desire of the mind comes down into the heart. I love being a doctor. Okay, what are some of the ramifications? Why is this important? Why is this important to understand? So the problem with the mind is that the mind is abstract. The mind doesn't necessarily, it's too abstract to actually affect behavior. Okay? So I want to run the marathon. That is true. Does that mean that I will run the marathon? No. Why? Because the will is abstract. I want to go to the library and read every book in the library. Does it mean I'm going to? No. It's a desire of the mind. Intellectually, I understand it's the right thing to do. But my intelligence within my psyche is too abstract. And if it's abstract, it's not going to affect the action. However, what happens if the will actually develops, and by a Kabbalistic process called da'at, called knowledge, but we're not going to get into that right now. What happens if that will of the mind trickles down and it goes sort of, it narrows? It's not such a simple process to get to the mind, to the heart. Kabbalistically, it has to go through the narrow straits of the throat, where the body narrows from the mind, which is broader than the neck. It has to sort of funnel down through the neck, and only then could it enter the heart. If my will now enters my heart, now I don't just want to run the marathon, I love running the marathon. Now, if I love running the marathon, what does love mean? It's hard to define, but in Kabbalistic language, it's very simple. It means the will of the heart, the desire of the mind enters the heart. Now, not just the brain wants it, but the heart wants it as well. If your heart wants it as well, the emotion is much more concrete within a person and much closer to action. So if you love doing something, chances are your chances of actually doing it go up. So if I want to do something, I want to study the whole Talmud. I wanted to do that since I'm 13. Did I do it? No. Am I going to do it? Who knows? Maybe not. Why? I will. Do I want to? If you had a thermometer to test will, yeah, you could say your will is intact. I have a perfect will. You want to do something. You want to study all the Talmud. You want to run the marathon. You want to become a doctor. Whatever the example is. I want to eat. I want to change my lifestyle, live a healthy lifestyle. This is all will that is true. The will is genuine. It's not that I'm lying to myself. I really want to do it. But just wanting to do it is not going to change me. What's going to change me is when the will of the heart descends into the will of the mind descends into the heart. Now the feeling is much more concrete. If the feeling is much more concrete, it's closer, so to speak, to the realm of action. And if I love doing something, if I love to study, if I love going to medical school, if I love helping people, not just I want to help people. Everybody wants to help people, but some people love to help people. If you love to help people, that abstract idea of the mind actually entered the heart, then it's much more likely that it's going to affect and trigger action. And that is the idea of the difference. Before we even get to this verse, just to define the terms, what is will, what is love? Okay, so far, if you disagree, now is your time to voice your opposition, because everything we're going to say following now is built on what we just said. So if you disagree, if you're offended by this definition of will and love, please speak up now. Otherwise, I assume you're at least willing, at least for the next 10 minutes, you're willing to accept this definition, at least for the sake of argument. Okay, let's go back to the verse of Song of Songs, chapter 6. You are beautiful like Tirza. You are beautiful like will. Okay, getting a little bit more interesting. You are beautiful like will. So the Kabbalistic reading of this verse is, again, based on the Medrash, that you are beautiful when you will. We're going to reinterpret that Medrash, and we're going to say, you are beautiful. When are you spiritually beautiful? Not when you want to do the right thing. Everybody wants to do the right thing. Everybody wants a relationship with the transcendent. Everybody wants to escape sort of the pull of the self-oriented ego and wants to connect to something greater than self. Okay? Everybody has the will. That's not necessarily beautiful. When are you beautiful? You're beautiful, Yafat Rayati. You're beautiful, my beloved, Kitirtsa, when you will. In Kabbalistic language, when the will of the mind enters the heart, or in other words, when the heart is consistent with the will, that is the definition of Kabbalistic spiritual beauty. When the heart reflects what the mind tells it. You see, I'll tell you for myself. My mind tells me I should love spinach. Okay, my heart tells me I should love chocolate cake. Now that's just a metaphor, right? I'm just bringing a metaphor. It could fill in the blank. It could be anything. But what's happening here is that's not spiritual beauty, because that's inner conflict. That's inner tension. And the will of the mind, what I know to be right for me, doesn't necessarily trickle into my feeling. And therefore, every morning I wake up and I say, okay, what am I having with my coffee? Am I having spinach pie or am I having chocolate cake? Thank God there's no chocolate cake in the house, so I don't have to worry about it. I don't eat the chocolate cake because there is no chocolate cake. But the bottom line is my heart doesn't reflect that desire. What is spiritual beauty? Spiritual beauty is your heart reflects the desire. Now, it's not so simple. We all have the innate goodness. We all have the innate desire. To allow that to trickle into the heart is a process. It takes meditation. That's what prayer is about. It takes spiritual exercise. You have to go to the gym, not just to exercise your body, that too, but you also have to go to the spiritual gym to exercise your soul. It's not a simple matter, but that's not the subject of this class. How to get to the mind, to the heart is another discussion. It needs meditation. Next year, we're doing a JLI. In the winter, we're doing a JLI about Jewish meditation. Don't forget to sign up to that. That's just a plug. You got to we have to do some advertising here. But that's a separate topic of how to do it. But the idea that it takes work, that the heart, the practical side of the heart should reflect and should be a sort of a vessel and open to what the mind wants, that is spiritual beauty. That's what we get from the Song of Songs, chapter 6. Yafat Rayati, behold, my beloved, you are as beautiful as will. You're beautiful when the heart reflects the will. That's point number one. I have another 3 points to make, and I'm going to try to make them in the next 7 minutes, so I get you out of here on time. So we know what beautiful is based on this context. Beauty is that the mind, your beauty as your will, when the heart is consistent with the will, that when the will of the heart is consistent with the will of the mind, that is a definition of beauty within the Kabbalah based on this verse in Song of Songs. Another definition of beauty in the Torah, and that is something that we find in other places in the 5 books of Moses as well. The definition of beauty in the Torah is colorful. Okay, this is very interesting. One solid color in the Torah is not beautiful. It can't be beautiful. It's wonderful. It's not the term beautiful. The term beautiful is reserved in biblical Hebrew for a blend, because what we understand here is that there's a certain beauty. Beauty comes not so much from being in one color, meaning in one dimension. Beauty comes from the merging of multiple energies. And you could talk about artistically as well. I mean, artistically, there's a certain beauty when various components, opposites come together. Now, I don't know what you like to do, but you have this in many realms. Even if you want to go as physical as food, right? What is food? What makes food tasty? It's not so much if it just has sweet or just has sour, right? It's the combination. And my kids don't understand. They say, why do you put why do you put into the food? Why do you put salt and black pepper and maple syrup and lemon juice? In other words, are you trying to get something sweet? Are you trying to get something spicy? It almost seems like it's going to cancel, the tastes are going to cancel each other out. No, there's a certain beauty when you have a blend of different energies or different tastes that makes something beautiful. The same thing is with art. I'm not an artist. I'm a very tangible person. So I give you an example of food, but the same is true about art. If I was an artist, I would explain to you that a solid color, no matter how beautiful, there's something when you have the blend of colors that has a certain inner beauty. And in the Torah, that is in the 5 books of Moses, when you say beautiful, that's one definition. It's the sort of a hybrid of various colors. How does this help us? So what does it mean that we're beautiful in our relationship with God? So, but the same, by the way, same is true about any relationship. And we discussed this a little bit in the past on other verses. I forget exactly which verse, but we know that within our relationship with God, Kabbalah explains that within the emotional realm of a person, there are 7 emotions, but they can be boiled down to 3. And those 3 could be boiled down to 2 primary emotions. And the 2 primary emotions are love and awe, or in simple English, love and respect. And a lot of problems in relationships come from the fact that people have too much of one, but they don't have the other. And people fall in love, and their love is so powerful, and they don't understand how come the love is inevitably going to hit an obstacle. And what do you do when the love hits the obstacle? And the answer is, when the love hits the obstacle, you need respect. Respect is the opposite of love, in the sense that love is the drive to become one. I want to become one with you. The problem with wanting to become one with you is that means you have to see the world the way I do. That means you have to enjoy what I do, and you have to vote the way I do. No, I'm joking. The vote, you have the curtain, nobody's going to know who you vote for. But you see what I'm saying? The desire to become one is the desire of love is really the desire to become one. Now, we're not really one. We want to become one. There's this dance between 2 separate people, 2 distinct people trying to become one. And that's why we need the respect. The respect is, I can acknowledge that you're different than me, that you have a different perspective, and you have different needs and different desires. And at the same moment, maybe the moment that I want to feel the closeness, maybe that's the moment you need space. And by the way, that's a big theme of this book, is the timing. When she is sort of very, when her level of desire is very high, he's not so high, but the tables are going to turn. When he is very into the relationship, she cools down a little bit. So that timing is that understanding, sensing the difference between the people. We're not exactly the same. We're different. We have different needs. We have different expectations, and respecting that is critical to the relationship. You have to have, like the Kabbalah says, you have to have 2 wings to the relationship. Like a bird needs 2 wings to soar. If you have just love, no respect, just respect, no love, it's a wonderful thing, but it's not a relationship. And that's what we're saying now. We're saying, if we say that Yafa, the first definition of beautiful, is that the heart, the emotions of the heart reflect the will of the mind. That's one definition. But the second definition is our relationship. You're beautiful means our relationship is multidimensional. It's not one-dimensional. It's not I love you. I want to do everything together with you. I want to be exactly the same as you. I want you to be exactly the same as me. That's wonderful. That's one. I want to be one with you. But that's not beauty. Beauty is if the relationship is multidimensional. I want to be one with you, but I respect the differences. And that, by the way, gives the oxygen, gives the space for the love to be able to persist, because if not, you're going to choke the love. So again, point number one is beauty. The Kabbalistic definition of beauty is when the heart reflects the will of the mind. Beauty definition number two, the emotions that are in the heart are multidimensional. It's not just love, it's love and respect, and the combination of the two, which is compassion, but that's beyond the scope of right this minute. Okay, that's the second point. Third point is we have to discuss of why the double expression. You are beloved, you are comely, my beloved, you are comely. There's two expressions of beauty. And we said beauty, therefore, means the heart. When the heart reflects the mind, emotions. So emotional diversity. In other words, a complex emotional relationship is beauty. Okay, but what's the double expression? And here we get to an interesting Kabbalistic idea. And the interesting Kabbalistic idea is that within our relationship with God, we are supposed to awaken emotion, awaken love to God. The most important Jewish prayer, we say it twice in the morning and at night, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel. The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. We meditate on the oneness of God, the greatness of God, the oneness of God. And then the next sentence, V'ahavta, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Judaism is not a conventional religion where we're supposed to serve God. Judaism is a relationship with God. And therefore, it's very important to awaken the love every morning and every night. So that's the love. We create the love. But now, says the Kabbalah, the love that you can create is only the first step, because we're finite. We don't really truly understand the greatness of God. We cannot really, the love that we could produce is limited. However, if we produce the limited love that we can for God, God then gifts us with emotions that we would not be able to create on our own. So when you create a love for God, God will bless you and bestow love within your heart, a more intense love that you could not create on your own. And so too is with all the emotions. Says the Kabbalah, it says in the verse twice, you are beautiful, because there's two sets of emotions. There's the emotions that I create on my own, and then there's the emotions that God gifts me. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're happy. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you have to struggle to be happy. You have to struggle to feel love. You have to struggle to feel patience. Why? Like this morning, because the sun is not shining. No, I'm just joking, but metaphorically, yes. Sometimes it's easy to feel good and feel healthy and feel positive and feel happy and feel giving. Well, sometimes you know why it feels so easy? Because you didn't create it on your own. God gave it to you. Right? That's the emotions that come from above. Sometimes you have to struggle to awaken the positive emotions. I wake up in the morning, I'm not in the mood, I'm not happy. Well, work on it. Put yourself in the right frame of mind. Go take a walk, go take a jog. Think about the blessings in your life. You have to create that emotion. You're doing it on your own. Now, sometimes when you struggle to do it, now I'm in a good mood, but not as I am when I wake up in the morning and the metaphoric sun is shining. Of course not, because those emotions come from above. They're gifted to you, and they're a greater level in a sense. They're more intense, but it's not as valuable. So in our relationship with God, we have both these emotions. We have the emotions that we create on our own, and then we have the emotions that are gifted from above. And that's the double language of you are beloved, you are beloved. Now, you are beautiful, you are beautiful. Now let's go back to Rashi. Sorry, I'm picking up pace, but I have two more points that I need to make. Rashi says, you remember when Rashi said, why is there a double language? Because when the Jewish people got the Torah, they said, we will do and we will hear. We will do and we will listen. Now, the conventional interpretation is we will listen means we will do the commandments that God commanded us to do, and then we will listen as in we will try to understand it. But the Kabbalistic interpretation says, no, read this very simply. We will do. We literally na'aseh, we will make, not just do, but make. That refers to the emotions that we create on our own. And then we will hear. When you listen to music, you're not creating the music. You're just listening. It's being given to you and you're listening to it. And that's what we're saying here. We will do and we will hear represents the two levels of emotion. The emotions that we create with a love for God or and respect, and it's God, but it's not only God, it's also for the people around us, and then what is given to us, and that's the two expressions of beauty. Okay, fine. We have one more clause in the verse that this, in some sense, is probably the most beautiful of everything. So I'm going to show you the verse again because it's too beautiful. It's not going to take long because it's short and sweet and to the point. Verse 5, behold, you are calling, my beloved, behold, you are calling. Your eyes are like doves. So what did Rashi say? Rashi said, doves, well, those are the people who are loyal. But the Kabbalah says, 1 second, what is the metaphor of doves? The metaphor of doves, if you look at them, they stare at each other. And by the way, that's the difference. When you walk into a restaurant, how do you know who's in love? I hate to say this in a bad way. How do you know who's dating, and how do you know who's been married for 30 years? No, that's a joke. How do you know who's in love, and how do you know who's not? Well, people who are in love are looking at each other's eyes. People who are not in love, they're looking at the phone, they're looking at the screen. They're not. When you love somebody, you want to see them. You look at their eyes. When people are looking at each other, eye contact is a sign of love. Okay. What does it mean in our relationship with God that we are, our eyes, God is praising us. The man is praising the bride, the woman. God is praising us. Your eyes are dove-like. What does it mean? We're always staring at God. We always have eye contact with God. Now, how do you have eye contact with God? We're Jews, but there's no idols. There's no image of God. How do you have eye contact with God all the time? So here the Kabbalah says something beautiful. The praise of this verse is, the spiritual equivalent is, if you look around nature and you look around the world, you have a choice. You could look around and see nature, or you can look around and see the expression of God's power. And you could see God's providence. You could see God's involvement in every area of life, in every molecule of life. And when the verse says, Einayich yonim, your eyes are dove-like, the verse is saying you are so in love with God that wherever you look in the world, you look at the sunset, you look at the tree, you look at a blade of grass, you look at the ocean, you look at the human brain, whatever you're looking at, you're staring at God. You don't see God, you can't see God, but you see God's greatness, you see God's expression, you see God's providence. And that's the metaphor of Einayich yonim. Wherever you look, your eyes are dove-like. Wherever you look, you're always staring at your beloved. You're always looking, and you always have eye contact with God. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the story in short. Just to summarize very quickly the Kabbalistic angle. What does it mean, beautiful? Beautiful means, spiritually speaking, within the heart. Beauty is when the heart is aligned with the mind, because a lot of conflict in life happens when I have the right idea, but that idea doesn't trickle down into the heart. Beauty is when the heart aligns with the mind, and the desire in the mind is actually trickles down and becomes love within the heart. That's beautiful. And beautiful is, it's not just one emotion, but it's a complex relationship with multiple emotions, at least two, at least the opposites of love and awe, the two wings of love and awe, plus the merging between the two, but that's another story. And then why does the verse say double? You're beautiful, you are beautiful, because there are two sets of emotions in our life. There's the emotions that we have to struggle to create on our own when we don't wake up in a good mood, when we don't wake up happy, when we don't wake up feeling kind and feeling giving. So we have to struggle to create that emotion. And then there's the emotion that's given to us from above. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and everything is fine. You can wake up in the afternoon. I don't mean a time of day, but I mean that the emotions are there. The positive emotions are there. It was gifted to me from above. The first one is Naaseh, the emotions that we have to create on our own. Second one is Nishma, the emotions that we don't have to create. All we have to do is listen, tune into it, and then we can experience them. And finally, the praise of the second clause of the verse, Einayich yonim, your eyes are dove-like, is the ability. Sometimes the same two people are looking at the same tree. They're walking on the same trail in the woods. Some people could see randomness, and some people could see, I'm staring right in God's eyes. I have eye contact with God. I'm in love with God. If you're in love with God, you'll be looking at God wherever you are. And in every aspect of this world, you would see your beloved. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the story in short. Thank you for joining. We will continue next week, God willing, with the desire for a home. Right? You're dating. It's nice. You want him. He wants you. He's complimenting you. He doesn't want to commit. And you're saying, don't we have a beautiful couch? Don't we have a beautiful house? And that is the next rung on our journey. So thank you for joining. Have a wonderful Shabbos and hope to see you in good health.
Rabbi,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Rabbi, so this week, the Kabbalistic and the Hasidic interpretations line up a little bit more?
I didn't examine the Kabbalistic exactly. I didn't have a chance to do that right now. If you hang on for a second, I'm going to look at I'll look and see what the Kabbalists do. In other words, yeah. So give me a second. I'll try to see if there's anything interesting to add. I'm supposed to do my homework, but when I don't, I get into trouble.
Just say the dog ate it.
Oh, that's a good idea. I tried that in the first grade. They said you don't have a dog. I said, oh.
My kids ate it.
Okay, let me do this relatively quick. Let me try to do this quickly. Here it is. Let's see what the mountain would have. Okay, I'm not going to get into the whole thing here with the Kabbalah because it's based on the Kabbalah on the previous verses, which we didn't have time to do. But I'll say very briefly. Hinach yafa, you are beautiful. You is the soul. The soul is beautiful. The beloved, God is telling the soul you're beautiful. Why is the soul beautiful? To God, what is beautiful? To God, the beautiful is godliness. So where do you find godliness? If you want to feel connected to God, where do you find godliness? So you can find godliness in two places. You can find godliness within your heart. Another place you can find godliness is within the world around you. Like I said before, from the Hasidic perspective, that when you see God in nature, that's another place where you could see godliness. So the Kabbalah would say that the two dimensions of you are beautiful is referring to the beauty of the soul, and the beauty of the soul, you find the beauty is number one is your beloved, you're beautiful. In the sense that you can find the beauty within the beauty would refer to the connection with God. You can find that within the soul, or you could find it in the broader world, and that's a na'ich. Also, so it actually does align, but instead of giving the Hasidic gets a little bit more intrinsic of what is the definition within the person. The beauty is when the heart reflects the mind. The Kabbalistic is saying more general, and it's doing so because it did so in the previous verses, verse 12, 13, 14, he goes into this whole thing of where do you find the fragrance of God? You can find it within the person, and that he says is between my breasts. That's the previous verses. Or you can find it, I'm just going to give you quickly because we didn't do it last week. So let's do this quickly. Give me just a second because you're pulling me into it. I shouldn't pulling me into this, right? What was the verse? Verse 13. A bundle of mirth is my beloved to me. Between my breasts he shall lie. A cluster of henna flowers is my beloved to me in the vineyards of Ein Gedi. Okay. So where is my beloved? Is he between my breasts or is he in the vineyards of Ein Gedi? Oh, I didn't share the screen. I was supposed to. Right? So here we go. 13. A bundle of mirth is my beloved to me. Between my breasts he shall lie. A cluster of henna flowers is my beloved to me in the vineyards of Ein Gedi. So where is my beloved? Is he between my breasts or is he in Ein Gedi? The answer is both. Why? Because we're talking to where do we find God within the person? In the heart, but also within nature, also within the world as a whole. That's the vineyards of Ein Gedi. And according to that interpretation, when it goes into the verse 15, and he says, you are beautiful, my beloved, you are beautiful. It's these two dimensions of where we find the beauty. We find the beauty of the relationship with God within our soul. We also find it in the world as a whole. And in Ayich, your eyes are like doves, because we're looking for this beauty in both dimensions. So in this sense, yes, you're right, the Hasidic aligns with the Kabbalistic, but the Hasidic gets a little bit more detailed. It's more interested in helping us unlock the inner beauty of allowing the mind to reflect within the heart and allowing the heart to reflect the desire of the mind. So thank you for asking that question because we got a little bit more detail here.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. What is the word for beautiful that's used?
Yafa. Yafa in Hebrew, there's the word beautiful. Here, comely, I don't know what comely is. I don't know what fair means. I have no idea. I'm not an English major, but there are different verses of saying, in Hebrew, it's saying the same word, yafa. Yafa is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a beautiful class.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it. So that's, I appreciate that we can do this together.
Great class, Rabbi. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Wonderful day, everybody. Don't forget to always be in eye contact with your beloved. Wherever you look in the world, make sure you're seeing godliness. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shalom. Be well.
A good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Take care.